Hi, I'm josephrlewis, and I write adventures. And today I'd like to talk to you about game systems, because I got a question that said, how do you pick a system to write for? And I thought that's an interesting question, so let's dive into that and talk about systems. First off, I should say that system matters. It absolutely does, usually. Different game systems, even two similar looking rules light fantasy RPG systems, are going to have different mechanics and different play styles and different cultures amongst the players in that system. And all of this should affect how you write an adventure for that system. Probably. Somewhat. Almost definitely. So, to start, the system that you should write for is probably the system that you're already playing, the one that you know best, the one that you have the most time with, either as a player or as a GM. Um, you know the rules, you know the culture, and you know what players expect and what they enjoy, generally speaking. So, whatever you're playing is probably what you should be writing. That's easy enough. But what if you play many systems? For example, right now I'm running a weekly campaign in Cairn, and I'm also running sort of irregular one shots in Shadow Dark, and I'm playing. I get to be a player in a 5e campaign. Uh, and in addition to that, of course, I play lots of one shots in lots of different systems. Gosh, Mothership, Lady Blackbird recently, OSE, Old School Essentials. Lots of different things. So, if you're like me and you play in lots of different systems, you have a lot of different knowledge and experience, you have more options. And when I started writing, though, the only system I was playing was 5e, so I wrote my adventures for 5e. That made sense. But it's interesting because I had never, and I still have not ever, read a published 5e adventure. I've glanced at them at the bookstore, but I've never sat down and actually read one in depth. So I don't have that knowledge or that background. And even now, I don't actually know how many 5e folks have played my adventures, because very early on, I think the old school community discovered my stuff. They liked my content. They really enjoyed it. They embraced it. And so I gravitated towards trying to service that community and focus on that community in those game systems. So let's say you play many systems and you're comfortable with many systems, you know them well, and you are genuinely trying to decide which system that you want to write for. So first off, if we go all the way back to the first video, we talked about your vision for your adventure, your concept. Um, what is it that you want to write? Because the type of adventure that you want to write is probably best suited to one or another gaming system. So if you want to write a classic dungeon delve, you should probably tailor it to a system that focuses on that style of play, that has that culture of play with its players. So that would be something like Shadow Dark, Old School Essentials, uh, DCC. There are already systems and game cultures that are focused on that type of adventure. So if that's what you want to write, you should probably aim it for those game systems. And if you want to write an adventure that's more epic in scope, more heroic fantasy, high fantasy, then you should probably be tailoring that to a system like 5th Edition or Pathfinder, or maybe Tales of the Valiant or the new Draw Steel. And if you want to write an adventure that sort of focuses more on fairy tale weirdness and exploration and less tactical combat, then maybe you should tailor that to a system like Cairn. And of course, if you want to have your players pretend that they're mice, you should absolutely be writing for Mouse Ritter. Now, there are some people who are going to say, but you can play any type of adventure in my system or any system. And while technically you can play any adventure in any system, some systems genuinely do a better job at modeling certain activities and rewarding styles of play. And if you don't know what that means, then I strongly encourage you to read and play more systems, because different systems are designed to encourage different behaviors and have a different effect at the table, different interactions with the players. And that could be everything from tactical to story-based combat. That can be exploration. That could be mystery solving. That can be story-based versus diegetic versus technical interior content. And if you don't know what those words mean, then by all means, you need to read more games and play more games and get a better sense of what is possible with different gaming systems. It's sort of like saying you can drive any car anywhere. You can, technically, but some cars are better on crowded city streets, and some are better at driving on dirt roads or up hills or on ice. And you would know that if you tried driving more cars on more different roads. That's my analogy for that. So, what system should you write for? Well, if you primarily play one system, you should write for that system. And if you play many systems, then you need to think about what each of those systems is for and what type of adventure you want to write, and then find a way to marry those up. But you can also write for more than one system at a time. You can write a system neutral adventure, which is a little tricky. It means that you need to understand multiple systems very well so that you can write for all of them and sort of write around the rules of all of them at the same time. And the only way to get good at this, I think, is to play many systems and to also read system neutral adventures and see how a writer, a skillful writer, can create new content that is accessible by different rule systems without leaning on any of those rule systems. Um, that means you need to be able to write a room that any system can understand and build saves for or checks for in order to have interactions. And if there's monsters or combat, those different systems need to be able to see your content and have a solution to it. They need to understand stat blocks or whatever it is so that they can immediately play in a sort of effortless and easy way based on your neutral content. But even then, what I think you'll end up doing is writing an adventure that is system neutral, but still leans towards a handful of similar systems. For example, again, if we were doing a dungeon delve, something that is accessible to Shadow Dark, maybe 5e, probably Old School Essentials, DCC, BX, all of the retro clones that are based on BX. Um, they're still very similar games. I don't think that it's possible to write an adventure that is system neutral towards wildly divergent different games that have very different mechanics and very different styles of play. But that's fine. You're still catering to a large swath of the community. Lots of people can still discover and play and enjoy your adventure in that fashion, and you'll probably do a better job if you focus on at least a segment of the gaming community. If you'd like to see an example of something that came out just last year, there's a new book called Valley of Flowers, and there's a longer fantasy word that goes with it that I don't think I can pronounce. But it is written with two systems in mind. One is Cairn, and one is Old School Essentials. And they have found clever ways to consolidate the mechanics, the sort of stat blocks and things, into just a couple of pages of content. And then the rest of the text is essentially system neutral, but it's keeping both of those two systems in mind. So as it walks through and there are checks or there are saves, they are tailored in such a way that either of those two systems can easily apply their rules to those situations. So that's an example you can look at in the Valley of Flowers. And I think that's about all I have to say about system. Either write for the one you know, or find the one that's appropriate to the adventure that you want to write. And that's about it. So good luck out there.